Hi, welcome to this episode of The Latest Thread. Unfortunately, Sharon can't be with us today, but she'll be back next time. And our topic today is working with unusual fabrics, whether they be just strange fabrics that you found at a thrift shop or decorator fabrics or really fancy fashion fabrics. So I think we have a bunch of pictures to share. Anybody want to add anything before we? It's always pictures. People want to see pictures. They don't want to hear us.
They speak for themselves.
They
You
do.
don't
All
really have to say anything now.
right, we lost our sharer. So I'm going to share screen. Hopefully this works smoothly. All right, can everybody see that?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Coming? Maybe?
There we
There
go.
it is.
Okay. So of course, Ava, you are first. I'm sorry.
Some things never change, no matter who the sharer is, apparently.
What's
But
this?
anyhow.
Alphabetical.
This was an antique table linen. You can see it has some crochet type lace in the center, and also in the corner you see it a little bit. So I quilted that for a gift for my mother. And what I did, because of the crocheted lace, I had to layer it with another piece of fabric behind it. Because otherwise you would see the batting through the lace part.
Mhm.
So this was kind of fun for me to do. It was the first time, trying a vintage table linen, but it was fun trying to add some design elements, as in the circle arcs. And I was also curious because it was a different type of fabric, how the stitching would look, because to me that's an interesting part, to see how a regular thread looks on different type of fabric.
Mhm. Yeah, you really added a lot with the arcs. I like
Mhm.
that.
It's fun.
All
Okay, and this was actually a class sample of mine, and for obviously a feather class. And this is very, I don't want to say cheap, but economically priced polyester fabric. It was really nice because it's like for when you do prom dresses, it's a little bit heavier polyester. So there's really not much fray compared to some of the other ones. They fray a lot more. But because has a little bit more body to it, it stitches up super nice, and it looks like a really nice, real satin, but because it's polyester, you get the same look, I think, and it's, cheap to kind of play around and see what the effects are.
I actually, oh, no, I don't, not to
Go ahead,
interrupt.
go ahead.
I quilted on really expensive bridal satin, and I actually prefer the cheap polyester satin. So it quilts up a
Yeah,
lot. Mhm.
it's fun, especially if you do something really pretty per se, like with the feathers, because they just stand out really nice. It's a little bit trickier to take pictures of. You have to get it just right because of the sheen. But the stitching part, it literally feels like you're stitching on butter. The stitches look very much defined, I guess I want to say. So that's fun to try.
Very nice.
And then this is wool. I do quite a few of wool applique quilts. And that again can be an interesting exercise because the wool really soaks up the thread.
Mhm.
So, which in this case, it's nice because the wool applique and the intricate embroidery stitches really should be what you're looking at and not the quilting. So I generally, in order to outline or do the detail work on the wool applique, use a 100-weight thread, because that way I can just use one thread. It's often a gray. It depends what color the wool is. But so you can use the same thread for all the wool applique, and you really can get in there. And I also use, I have the Gamma approach foot system, and I use the little itty bitty trapunto foot, because it's more challenging to use your regular foot, because the wool is such a different weave. It would push, the foot would push the wool, and you can't get to where you're want to go. So the trapunto foot is really perfect for doing work on that.
Love that foot. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And this one was an experiment I wanted to do, because I never done the curved piecing like that for double wedding ring. But my big mistake was I had a vision. You know how you get something in your head, and then of course you imagine that it'll work because it's in your head. Well, the fabric in the arcs is a Decorator fabric. So it had all different weaves within, because there's like some embroidery type stitching within that fabric. So to try to match that up with the cotton fabric, because it was quite heavier than, and of course my background fabric, the green, unfortunately was a very thin fabric. So let's put it that way. It was quite a challenge. It took a lot of unsewing to try to get it to match up. But the effect of it, which was in my head, was exactly what I was hoping for. So
It looks really cool.
Mhm.
and here's another example of, this was wool and cotton combined. Just another example of, the stitching in the blue triangles, that was wool also, and it turned out really pretty. And then her green background fabric was super busy, so I just did a stipple, because again, you don't want to take away from the wool applique. So sometimes if you're working with different materials within the same quilt, you just really have to figure out what it is that's important, on the quilt, and place your designs and make your thread and batting choices accordingly. But that's just based on how I do things. I'm sure maybe you have a different perspective.
No, I love how the quilting looks on wool. So big pieces of wool, I like that. Yeah.
And this was just the itty bitty piece of leather I had, and I wanted to try, at the time I did that with the Elevate, try out an edge to edge design. And working with leather and or cork, it's something, like I said, this was just literally a small swatch. But if you just have a small piece of something, it's fun to try to see again, how everything works together. The only disclaimer is with leather and or cork, you really have to be sure what you're doing, because unlike cotton, you really can't pull any stitching out, because you'll never get that out.
Yeah, it doesn't heal.
No.
That's why I think probably one of the most important things, if you're going to use some kind of odd fabric, weird, test it first, because like this, if you test it and find out that your thread breaks or something, you really have to figure out why, because yeah, you can't close up those holes. They're there forever.
Yeah, so small pieces are really the way to go.
Yeah.
Oh, that's tiny. Let me zoom in. Come on, zoom in.
They're probably all tiny, and I don't know why, because I noticed when I was saving them, they looked small.
There we go.
Here we go.
So this is ultra suede. And the really weirdest thing about this is it just looks perforated.
It does.
Like the thread matched so perfect, but it's another one where you're not ripping out. For one thing, it would be impossible just to get the thread, I think, because it really sucked down into that like nap.
Well,
So-
and even on the back, it's almost like a woven on the ultra suede. So even picking your stitches from the back is a pain.
Well, in this particular one it was the same front and back. So I don't know, it was imported,
Oh,
what they said, but you know. So one other thing, and I learned it with this, and it's even flannel, stuff like that. You have to also test how you're going to mark it if you need to mark it, because some of these fabrics like this, you know, it's like when you try to mark flannel with a white pencil.
Mhm.
It'll mark after you go over it like 10 times, and then it really seems like it's only marking the fuzzy part, not, you know. So that's something else to keep in mind with the.
But I love how crisp and clean that stitching looks. I mean, it's just perfect looking.
Yeah. Makes you want to look at it with your hands.
Mhm.
You can't feel anything because there's no batting.
No, but it's still, the fabric looks like you want to just touch it.
So the next picture is what it was for.
Okay. Next. Oh, too far.
That one.
I
See
mean,
that couch.
oh,
So
cool.
they were recovering the seats only.
Mm-hmm.
So my hatch had to match the hatch on what was already on the seats, right? So I felt like that's not my problem.
Yeah.
And then they wanted me to mark it. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not marking this. It was yards and yards. I forget how many now, 20 some yards
Wow.
of that. So I told them they had to mark it. I'll stitch whatever you mark, but you know, well, how should we mark it? I'm like, well, I don't know. Here's some tools you can try, but I'm not doing it because I don't know how you're going to get it off or anything.
No,
But-
and yeah, to reorder 20 yards of imported fabric.
Yeah. I didn't want any parts of the responsibility of that, but
And there's no way you could have marked it without knowing what to match it up to specifically. No
Yeah.
way.
yeah, nope.
Interesting.
And so this is another one where these are all for a decorator lady, and satin, same top and bottom, which, you know, and they don't understand that it really needs interfaced.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she wasn't doing that, and I wasn't doing that. I'm not ruining your fabric. Nope, not putting an iron on it. And also wanted these lines to match the slats in the baby crib. It's like,
Wow.
you need to, again, you're gonna have to mark that. I'm not taking that, you know,
Yeah.
responsibility. Nope.
I worked with a decorator as well. They're crazy demanding. Like, this is how it has to be. And I'm like, yeah, it's not going to work. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Not to mention this one, I always thought like, okay, it's
Baby crib.
it's the top and the bottom. If you wrap the kid in this thing, it's gonna like shoot out of your arms like a rocket. It's so slippery, you know.
So slippery, yeah.
You say rocket, I'm thinking like slippery, like taco, where all the food just falls out.
I'm just like, oh my gosh, this isn't gonna be good, but it's what you want.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay. I love this one. I love
And I mean, these are all from the same, you know, and I just would have to say, I know a lot of times I see people post like, someone gave me this fabric. Do I need to know anything? I have just quilted every kind of weird fabric. Just put it on there and quilt it. It's fine. And I never change my needle. Nothing. 4.0, always, never a problem. And some of them are thick. I think the thicker the better, because then should there be the slightest tension thing, you can't see it because it disappears.
Mhm.
And so this one, I love the ones like this because you can just follow what's there. And that's all I did. I figurated across and back and super fast.
Quick question. Was that the inspiration for your circle pop?
No, this was way after that.
I can't remember if the circle pop was before or, but it's exactly, well, not as.
Well, yeah, they're pretty big. It was kind of hard to quilt because you know how a circle is. Like a circle's easy when it's small.
Right.
The bigger it gets is, you know.
Hitting that side perfectly is harder. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, did you do that freehand?
Oh, yeah.
No circle template.
No.
You heard
See,
me.
I did not.
Circle template.
I did not have a ruler base
Oh,
or any rulers at this point in time.
my
Just that good.
See, I have to laugh, Ava. You said fast and easy, and you're like, template? I'm like, no.
No template.
Well, but yeah, I can see where I could do that also because of how textured looking, you know, the circles are, so that's forgiving, you know, even if you wobble a bit.
And they weren't actually perfect circles.
Yeah.
And this is my old machine. So it was an 18, which is like, you know, you can totally control, like,
Yeah.
it was easy.
That one looks cool. I like that one.
Like using your favorite pencil.
Mhm.
Your pictures are so tiny.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Hey, I quilted the same fabric in like a turquoise and cream.
This was pretty fabric. I mean,
Mhm.
and I guess that was embroidered on there. And again, I just followed it. No ruler. Because it was shiny. So when something's super shiny, if you're not dead on that line,
You're not going to see it.
oh, you can't see it. Everything's so shiny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And another one, this one was kind of a pain because it wasn't that continuous. I thought at first, but again, I mean, it had these weird little, I don't know what that was. It was sewed on the little, it almost looked like little bias strips kind of, but not, I don't know. Yeah, so I did like across the top and then came back and like cut.
Yeah, because they don't all connect.
So yeah, and I would say, so doing the decorator stuff too, the biggest thing is always like, you know, like a bedspread's huge because it's going all the way to the floor. So if their pattern isn't, I mean, this was fine because the pattern was running across the bed, which is the shortest way. So it was okay. But sometimes if they would give them to me and I couldn't load it the way, then it was an issue. So
when they're all vertical and they brought you 12, 15 yards. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's bad.
And they're like, but it's a big machine. And you're like, yeah, but it's still
Not
going.
that It's not 20 feet long.
So this is a client quilt and they're all ties. And I liked it because most time when they use the ties, they just do like the Dresden plates and stuff. So this one actually made hexies out of them. I like that.
I collected a bunch of ties for a while thinking I was gonna, never.
Natalie did one too, but I couldn't find the picture. And it was just, she just did like a bar quilt with the white background. And then this one's also wool, but this client gets all of her wool like from the thrift shops. And I think the big thing here in Florida, because everybody moves down here with all their winter clothes, and then they're like, I'm never wearing this again. So she actually like deconstructs all these wool jackets and gets all of her pieces from it. So she does a lot of upcycling.
So the wool is all
for a while.
What happened?
I collected all that stuff too from the Goodwill and stuff,
Oh
like
my God.
mountains of it. Never even got as far as cutting it apart or felting it. So yeah,
Goodness. Yeah, she does, and they're always fun. Her quilts, like I love
that's
stitching.
cute.
But
Mhm.
yeah, almost 90% of her wool is upcycled.
Well, I find that when they do that, which of course is really, economical to do, but then often the wool is different quality.
Yeah.
In other words, it's, some of it is a thicker piece because it came from a wool coat, where
Mhm.
maybe some other part came from a little sweater or whatnot. So,
Yeah.
which makes the quilt look great because then that creates,
Oh, that-
texture, but to quilt it can be challenging. Plus, wool can have such a big variety in weave
Mhm.
also. And so that's because some of it is literally should be interfaced, whereas others
Yeah.
can stand up straight. So,
Some of it is like already felted wool, and
Mhm.
others just like woven wool.
Yep.
Like it's crazy the different textures in there, but I
Mhm.
think that makes it more fun.
It's cute.
Yeah. This is the same client. These are all denim jeans that she cut apart and turned in like overalls and shorts. And it's cute, but it was a lot of work aiming around all those really thick seams.
Now, how heavy was that quilt?
It's
Because
heavy.
yeah.
It's only maybe 50 wide at the max,
Uh-huh.
but it's heavy. It's like
Yeah.
it feels like 5 pairs of jeans coming out of the dryer. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, I don't get the need of having to make a denim quilt, because it's cute to look at with all the trims and stuff on it. But for it to be a snuggle quilt, I don't see that.
I
So,
don't know, because I have a denim and flannel rag quilt, and it is my favorite quilt. And I think it's because it borders almost on weighted blanket. Like, I
okay.
don't know, but I love that quilt. Yeah.
Plus, it will last forever. I mean, denim
That's
washes,
true.
it gets better the more you wash it. So
And with a rag quilt, it just frays and frays, and it gets fuzzier each time you wash it. Mhm. So this is a class I taught pretty much on just using anything unusual. And this is all some of the students' photos, and I thought they were really cool. So I cut all their faces out because I didn't have permission to use their face, but but I mean, they used everything from like dried flowers to little plastic pieces to doilies to weird, strange, like I don't know where these fabrics were, but they felt like almost like spaceship fabrics, like crinkly, crunchy things.
Mhm.
mhm,
And that was a lot of fun.
I like those kind of classes.
I remember taking a class like that from Jody a long, long, long time ago at Quilting with Machines.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually, funny, looking for something, came across all the stuff for that. And I'm like, oh, wow, I probably don't need this anymore.
Well, that's what this was. Everybody brought just like a 2-gallon Ziploc of junk, and then we threw it on the floor, and they made such a mess, but it was so much fun. So
That was a fun class. I remember that.
So
But I also remember that it was very challenging because Jody brought so much stuff
mhm.
and you didn't know what you were gonna use, and then you overthink it. So
Yeah.
That might be just you. No.
no, I recall specifically it wasn't just me.
So yeah, we actually, I'm gonna put in a little coming soon blurb here. We actually have a class coming up. Soon is the best word I can say on doing stuff like this. So
That's fun.
eventually it'll show up on Gamma Education. And I've shared this picture before, but I went through all my pictures and I found the original little rolls of lame those were the 4 color choices for the challenge. And I used the pink and the blue, but you can see just in the rolls how fast they're fraying. They were not fun fabric, and they're interfaced, because if you don't interface them, as soon as you put the needle through it, it's just gone. Like there's no more fabric around where the thread went through.
I see you did some couching around that too.
Yeah, yeah.
It looks nice.
So, and this one, I've also shared this one before, and I found another picture of it. That is clothing fabric, fashion fabric. And I guess it's really great for clothes because it has this amazing drape and it just hangs real nice, but it does the same thing when you're trying to quilt it. It's just like, we're going this way. And you can actually see, can you see my mouse?
Mm-hmm.
Feel nice and straight this one was. But you see, after I
Ah,
started quilting it, it actually got a little distorted. Mhm.
yeah, but it doesn't take away from the effect.
No.
No, no, that's just me being overcritical, but that's how much the fabric was moving as I was quilting it. And then this one, nobody believes me, but this fabric, this burgundy and this purple are the same thing. It's just fashion fabric, but it behaves much better when you put it over foundation.
That makes a big difference if you
Mhm.
think that it's going to do something. I mean, the hardest part of doing that is holding that iron and putting it on 10 seconds in each place. It's like, no, that's a lifetime. But
Mhm. So that's,
neat.
yeah, if you're going to use really weird slinky fabrics, use foundation or stabilizer or something.
But that goes back to what we were saying earlier, what Jody was saying actually about testing, get enough so you have enough for your project, but get enough so you have a test piece, and then even play around with different types of stabilizers, and see how the quilting, whether it shifts or not, really important.
Yeah. And this is some hand dyed velvet. Jody sent me a bunch of scraps, and this is one of those. And that's another one. And the thing about velvet is great, but when you're quilting, you can't see anything, nothing. It's when you take it up and the light hits it from the side, you can see it, but
And I think the marking is near impossible.
it is. Mhm.
I mean, you
Well,
can try, but gosh.
I marked out those hexes and I almost, the little pattern rollers where it leaves,
Mhm.
that's what I use so that I could at least follow that line on there.
Hmm.
And then this is cork. This was a black and white challenge. I just wanted to do it in cork. So kind of went together like a puzzle.
That's cool. I like that.
Yeah, I love quilting on cork. You wouldn't think that it's going to quilt nice, but it quilts so
Oh,
nicely.
yeah.
Yeah.
But again, no mistakes because the holes are there.
Yeah.
So, and I know I've shared this before, but I went and dug and found more pictures. So this was just all wool yarns and scraps of fabric that I stitched down and then I felted them, But this fabric, I found this picture. See how you can see all these different colors here?
Mhm.
That's because where it's light, there it was like just one layer of fabric, and where it's darker, it was woven. So that's when because you can't see it once it's quilted, but this quilting through these little things was almost like air because it was just like little threads of fabric. So, but it works. I mean, I have fun. I call it the bargain bin. What in the like Joann's or somewhere they have those little remnants are like 60 cents.
Yeah.
I get some of the coolest weird fabrics. And this is swimsuit lycra. We got a piece, Natalie.
Wow.
Yeah, we got a piece just to see how it would quilt. And it quilts really good.
But isn't that super finicky
Stretchy.
about stretching?
It is made for bathing suits or
Right.
like leotards or whatever they're called now. But yeah, it's super stretchy, but it was fun. I mean, it was only like a fat quarter size, and we're like, what can we do with it? Let's see.
So did you interface it then?
No, we just threw it on there to try. And well, you can see right here, it started bunching up a little bit in that feather, but if you
you probably could interface it with like a woven one,
Mhm.
and it probably would just be, the same as.
Now, I would also think that on material like that is it stretchy in one direction? Just like we talk about minky, that you have to load it a certain way. Would the same apply to this?
I would think so, because this stretched in all directions.
Oh, in all directions.
All directions.
Yeah, because your swimsuit can't only stretch in one direction. I can do this, but I can't do anything else.
All right, all right.
You drop yourself on the floor. Too bad we don't bend that way.
I was just wondering because that obviously would make a difference. But I guess if it stretches in all direction, then if you put your clamps on and have your roller tension just right, then it would be fine without stabilizing. I can see that.
Yeah. So it was just a let's try and let's see what's going to happen. I don't know if I'd ever use lycra in any of my quilts, but
No.
it was fun.
Quilted bathing suit.
Right.
All right.
This is a recent project, and before I even say anything, if you want to know how badly your door needs painting, just put a new curtain on it and you immediately see how bad it needs painting. So this was a shower curtain. Like you can see, I don't know if you can see, can I zoom in? It's like just fraying as I'm cutting it. But I bought the shower curtain to make the curtain for the door. And then all the scraps, I sat there and I cut them out. And then I put them on some fabric, and I didn't even glue them down. I just stitched around the edges because I said, let's see what's going to happen. And then I just did a background fill and I frayed the edges. And now I have a little wall hanging to go across from that curtain on the door. So it's similar, but different. Yeah.
That's very cool shower curtain, I have to say. I like it.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those, like, I don't even know if you can call it fabric. It's fabric, but it's not really fabric.
Mhm. It's very pretty. Great idea.
Yeah, we do have a little wall over there that it'll match perfectly. So
Very cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone can go and take their shower curtains out and get their bathing suits out.
It's sold out of old bathing suits. There you go.
Oh boy.
So I hope you enjoyed that episode. And if you have some weird and unusual fabrics, we would love to see them. Go ahead and post them on the Facebook groups or any of the groups and just tag Latest Thread. We'd be happy to see them. And I bet you we'll even comment back. So that's it. And we'll see you again next time. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.